Hello and welcome in. It is a Sunday morning edition of Always College Football. We have not done this in a while. And when I say Sunday morning, it's 12:51 a.m. here locally in Charlotte, North Carolina. Just got back from Bank of America Stadium where we were on the call for the ACC Championship game, and what a game it was. We will get to that one. I'm your host, Greg McElroy. Apologize, a little tired here. My alarm is going off in 4 hours and 8 minutes because I will be waking up, getting on a plane, going to Bristol, Connecticut, and being on the college football playoff selection show. So a really fun day. Tomorrow's our Super Bowl. This whole weekend is like my favorite weekend of the year, but sleep is unnecessary. What is necessary, though, is to talk quickly about these Friday night games. Boise State, really impressive defensive performance. Jeanty goes for 210. I think Ashton Jeanty is phenomenal. It was the second best performance I saw in the games on Friday night. The best performance might have been from Army and what we saw from their rushing attack and just how absolutely outstanding their offensive line was. If I could give Army's offensive line a game ball, I would have. Unfortunately, I'm not sure exactly how to do that because you have to split it up 5 ways, but my goodness, was thoroughly impressed with what I saw from Army. That was by far the best I've seen them look all season long. They controlled the line of scrimmage against a really, really good and physical and talented Tulane team. They flustered Tulane multiple times. They got them behind the sticks a couple times, and I thought the defense for Army was excellent as well in holding that Tulane team to 14 points. There were a few times where I felt like Tulane was going to be able to gash them on the ground, and it just never materialized. But Ashton Jeanty, still probably the story of Friday night, right? Maybe if you want to expand it just a touch more, there was also a pretty impressive win by Jacksonville State when Tyler Huff is able to come back after getting injured last week and lead them to a 52-12 victory over Western Kentucky, avenging the loss of the week before. So that was an incredible performance from them altogether. Their running back, Stewart, goes for over 200. That was amazing. But Boise State, Ashton Jeanty, he'll be in New York. I will be submitting my Heisman ballot tomorrow, and I will be telling you how I voted at some point next week. I don't know exactly when I'm allowed to do that, but I promise you I would tell you. And I think Bryson Daly belongs in New York, the quarterback for Army. I think Ashton Jeanty belongs in New York. And I think Cam Skattebo belongs in New York. Cam Skattebo, what a performance from him in the Big 12 title game. Just an incredible, incredible performance from start to finish. He goes 16 for 170. You could tell early in the game just how involved he was going to be. Now, Leavitt, he made some plays too, and I was super impressed with how the receivers for Iowa State, or with the receivers for Arizona State, how they were able to step up in the ball game. Skattebo was incredible, right? I mean, he was probably the best player on the field. There's not really a whole lot that you can say that would actually go around that, considering he added 38 yards in the air as well. Skattebo was the best player on the field, but I was really impressed with what we saw from Melquan Stovall, who ends up going for 91 yards in the absence of Jordan Tyson. Being able to find a capable weapon to replace Tyson was significant. Arizona State punches their ticket to the playoff. We'll talk exactly how I think this seeding is going to shake out here in just a minute. But Arizona State, I think they deserve a good long look at a potential first-round bye. That was a clinic there in the second half, more specifically the third quarter, forcing turnovers, delivering big hits. They did get called for one targeting penalty, but man, they were very physical in the second half of that football game. And if you looked at the first drive that Iowa State was able to put together, outside of that first drive, man, there wasn't a whole lot going until some mop-up duty there towards the end. So super impressed with what we saw from Arizona State, forcing the mistakes. They are in the playoff team. What an incredible, incredible turnaround for Kenny Dillingham, and what a terrific performance on both sides of the ball for Sparky and the Sun Devils. Just incredible. Moving on to the SEC Championship game where Georgia and Texas in a thriller. This one played out pretty similar to how we thought it might go. I just thought Texas was going to win, but I thought it'd be low scoring. I thought it'd be kind of a line of scrimmage game. I did not envision Georgia having as much success as they had running the football, because I look at Texas and that impenetrable front that they've had all year. I didn't envision a scenario where Georgia's running for 141 yards and then Texas on the other side is running for 31. Now, remember, if you look at Texas, they went 27 carries for 29 yards the first time around. Well, in this game, it wasn't that different. 31 yards on 28 carries. They averaged exactly what they averaged the last time, and that was 1.1 yards per carry. There were a lot of penalties in this game. Thought Texas had a bunch of self-inflicted mistakes as far as that was concerned, but it was really a resilient performance from Georgia. There were some mistakes made. This was far from a flawless football game. It was an improvement over the last time. There were 7 turnovers last time, just 5 in this one, and there were some big mistakes made by some of the quarterbacks or some of the decisions that they had. But I will give tremendous credit to Gunnar Stockton coming off the bench, doing what he did, and putting them in a position to go and win that football game. I mean, he made his first drive when they went right down and scored the touchdown. He made some incredibly impressive throws on that drive. I mean, really, really good. So thought it was awesome. Thought he was great. And I'll be curious to see what happens with Carson Beck. I mean, Carson Beck, that did not look good. Rolling to his left, arm hit at a really awkward spot. He had to go in. Remember later in the game when Gunnar Stockton, his helmet got knocked off. So Carson Beck had to go in the game and didn't look like he could do a whole lot with that right arm. So really a disappointing end to his day. And hopefully there'll be a decent prognosis so he can come back and participate in what's likely to be the Sugar Bowl. That'll likely be the next game for the Georgia Bulldogs. That's the SEC champions. So won't see them for another 24 days or so, but we'll be very, very closely monitoring Carson Beck's situation with his shoulder. As far as Texas is concerned, way too many mistakes, man. It's a championship setting. You cannot have mistakes the way they had mistakes, whether it's 11 penalties, 3 turnovers, a couple picks thrown by Quinn Ewers, just way too many mistakes. So they got to clean that up. For whatever reason, it's not been a team that's been super mistake prone, except for when they play Georgia. So they got to clean that up because a lot of the teams that they'll see in the postseason are as good or better than Georgia in many places. One game I did not get to watch a whole lot of, full disclosure, was Penn State and Oregon. We were on the call for the ACC Championship game at the same time as Penn State and Oregon. Did have it on in the bottom right, but based on what I was able to see, like I said, in between plays and in commercial breaks, it looked like a complete track meet. Didn't look like there were a lot of problems moving the football. Didn't look like either defense was really in a good spot. And to think that Penn State was able to accumulate over 500 yards of offense is pretty dang impressive. Looked like they were able to get the run game going a little bit. Looked like they were able to do quite a bit through the air as well. I mean, for Penn State to rush for nearly 300 yards is pretty remarkable against that group. So give credit where credit is due to Penn State. I think they proved that they're worthy, but defensively, man, that was very unrecognizable. Like I said, in the little bit that I was able to watch, very unrecognizable performance from Penn State. Oregon's excellent offensively, but if you look at some of the scramble drill, there were a few times where it looked like they had Dylan Gabriel dead to rights, and sure enough, he'd make a play and somehow get out of it, and they find a guy open downfield. I think Dylan Gabriel will probably be going to New York. This was a really big moment for him to bring home a Big Ten championship, big spotlight, big audience. I think he impressed more than just his fair share of Heisman voters. So I'll watch that one on the plane at some point tomorrow and check back with me tomorrow. We'll give you a little bit better breakdown of what we saw from the Big Ten. The ACC Championship game, the game that we were on, what an incredible game. I mean, just wild. It wasn't looking like it was going to be real dramatic there as Clemson sat there with a 17-point lead when we started the fourth quarter. Did not think that it was going to come down to the wire, didn't think that it was going to be at the gun, but sure enough, they were able to flip the script, SMU was, and really took that game over and really did and made all the plays down the stretch that they needed to make to put them in position to steal that thing. I was a little concerned about how SMU would hold up along the offensive and defensive lines. And while they struggled a little bit with that early, felt like their offensive line kind of got settled in. If you look at SMU's performance in the game, I said this on the air, I think they played like their C-plus game tonight. And they had 5 drops in the football game. Coming into the game, they had 6 all season. They had a bunch of mistakes that led to great field position for Clemson that Clemson paid off and turned into 7 points. So I think what's really disappointing for Rhett Lashley and for SMU is that was one of their worst performances of the year, and yet they still almost won, which they deserve to be commended for that. But just way too many mistakes, not all that dissimilar to what we just talked about with Texas, just way too many mistakes by SMU on a stage that big to be able to expect to win. And the biggest mistake was perhaps their kick coverage at the end of the game when Adam Randall, the wide receiver for Clemson, being able to get it out near the 50-yard line to give them a chance to win the game in regulation. There were 5 or 6, it felt like, missed tackles on that kick coverage from SMU. It allowed Randall to kind of burst through and find some space. So really big mistake, really unfortunate ending for SMU, but my goodness, how about the poise, the comfort in critical moments from Clemson's offense? They knew immediately after they got that big kick return, you have a 15-yard play, immediate declare down situation, catch it, get down, and give your kicker a chance. Hoosier goes on and nails the 55 or 56-yarder, just an incredible kick and an incredible moment there to walk off the ACC Championship. Clemson's obviously now punched their ticket as well. A couple more in the game. Marshall crushes Louisiana, and Ohio beats Miami, Ohio, in what was a little bit of an upset there. Parker Navarro with a big day there for the Bobcats. All right, let's talk a little bit about the playoff. I'm going to be on the playoff show, obviously, so going to be there, and we'll talk about this a lot tomorrow. A lot of the conversation right now will center around Clemson, will center around SMU. Is SMU in? Is SMU out? Like I said, and I've told several people this that have asked me already, and the time that it took to get from the stadium to the hotel, I don't know what the committee is going to do. I really have no idea. This is probably one of the more difficult decisions the committee's probably ever had to make. Now, I think when you look at the optics of it, the one thing I would say is that I do think that conference championship games need to matter, right? I think they need to matter, and they've always been weighed heavily by the committee. But I do think there's probably fear in the committee room about the possible repercussions of leaving a team out that was in the field prior to conference championships, and then after conference championships, them being left out. So that's the argument in favor of SMU, the argument in favor of one of the other teams that would be in consideration, whether it's Bama, Miami, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. I mean, South Carolina just beat Clemson, by the way, so strengthens their resume, even though Clemson, obviously, they said last week, Ward Manuel did, that the teams that weren't playing couldn't really move, but I do think that is a feather in South Carolina's cap. But the one thing I would say about Bama's assessment is if the committee liked Bama over Miami based on resume, they're probably going to like Bama over SMU based on resume as well. The other thing I think is probably worth mentioning, and I don't think anyone's really mentioned this, and I'm surprised that it hasn't come up for anybody. If you really don't like SMU's strength of schedule, and if SMU lost their game against their biggest opponent, and that being Clemson here in the ACC Championship game, then why is there not a conversation to be had about potentially SMU and Indiana? As Indiana, they played one really difficult opponent and it didn't go well for them. And everyone was saying, well, if SMU got blown out, then they'd be out. Well, Indiana got blown out and they're still in. And their record was the exact same as SMU's prior to the conference championship game. So I don't feel like that conversation's really being had, probably because Indiana is a Big Ten team and they're viewed differently through the lens of the Big Ten and the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12. Everyone's viewed a little bit differently. So I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I really don't. I don't think there is really a right answer. I don't think there really is an easy choice for the committee, because I do think they kind of back themselves into a corner here, and I'll be really curious to see exactly how it goes. I do think that there is concern, though, about the possibility of de-incentivizing a conference championship game. So hang on, the teams that aren't playing, they don't have to put anything at risk, and now the team that does have to put something at risk, now they're on the way out. I do think that's something that the committee might be concerned about, but last year they put an undefeated Florida State team on the outside looking in. So the committee's done it before, and I don't think anything would surprise me at this point, but I'll be as interested as you will tomorrow at about noon, maybe 12:30 Eastern time in that vicinity. That 30 minutes, I'm sure we'll find out. But I would imagine the committee's probably having a pretty sleepless night tonight because it's kind of a catch-22 in either direction. They backed themselves into a corner, and now you run the risk of potentially devaluing conference championship participation. And then you also run the risk of saying, well, when you're looking at resumes, SMU's and Miami's resume is very similar, and Bama's resume is better than Miami's according to you. So that's going to be fascinating. So like I said, I'm not sure there is a right answer. I'm not sure we're going to find out, but I don't envy being in the committee tonight. That's for sure. I do, however, look forward to being alongside Booger McFarland, Joey Galloway, Reese Davis, and several of other of our obviously excellent analysts. I know Kirk Herbstreit will be with us. I know Coach Saban will be with us as well. So I really look forward to having that conversation with all those guys. And I'd be curious to see what everyone's thought is on what the committee will do, what they should do, and how it's all going to kind of play out. But we'll see. It's going to be fascinating, and we hope everyone will tune in tomorrow at noon Eastern time on ESPN. That'll do it for us here at Always College Football. Like, rate, subscribe. Appreciate you guys very much. Hope you guys enjoyed Conference Championship weekend as much as I did. It was awesome. Such a fun day of college football, especially between the SEC and the ACC games, both flirting with overtime, SEC getting there, ACC almost getting there, if not for a 55, 56-yard field goal that put the game on ice. So just a tremendous day, and we hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Tune in tomorrow. Look forward to that. We will have a show out tomorrow, a full rankings reaction, and we'll start to kind of look ahead at some of the matchups that we're going to have. The one other piece of the conversation I think that we'll have tomorrow morning is who should get the buys. And I think obviously the SEC Big Ten buys, obviously. That goes without saying. Who else should get the buys? Should Boise State get a buy in favor of Arizona State and Clemson? And I have kind of a difficult time, just full disclosure, I have a difficult time being on board a G5 team that played a G5 schedule having a bye over a team that played a P5 schedule and won a Power 5 conference. That's my own personal opinion. I just don't think the schedule is as difficult in the Mountain West as it is in the ACC or as it is in the Big 12. I think the Big 12 team, Arizona State, should absolutely get a bye. And then I think Clemson, after having just beat SMU, who at the time was 11-1, ranked 8th in the country, I think Clemson should likely jump up and potentially get a bye over Boise State, who would then probably have to go on the road to play in the first round of the college football playoff. We'll see how that all unfolds. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Boise's going to get a bye, and I would be really curious to see if it's the ACC or the Big 12 that gets it. But based on the dominance that we saw from Arizona State over a pretty solid Iowa State football team, I think they'll probably lean in favor of the Big 12, but we'll see. Should be interesting nonetheless. And then the home games. I think the teams that you can probably rest assured you're having a game played either the 20th or the 21st. I think Penn State, I think Texas, I think Ohio State, and I think Notre Dame. I think those four teams are going to be at home on the 20th or the 21st of December. Who they're playing against, I have no idea. But I do think those four teams can feel pretty comfortable in securing some tickets and maybe a hotel room or two there in a couple weekends the week before Christmas. So that's how I think it'll shake out, but we'll break it down in its entirety tomorrow on ESPN. For all of us here at ACF, for Mark, Jake, Jack, the other Jack, I'm Greg. We hope you have an amazing day. Remember, it's always college football.
Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.